Welcome back for another fireside chat, and this one's going to have some fire. So I am joined by TK Keanini, who is CTO at Cisco Secure. TK, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here. Let's bring the fire.
And TK, you've been working on zero trust for years now, and I mean, we have to face it. There's loads of marketing hype. We know it around zero trust and identity. Why should we even bother thinking ahead about zero trust strategies? Have we just sorted it? Is it just a product? What's your approach? What are you talking to customers about?
Yeah, I think to understand it more intimately, we have to ask ourselves, what was the world like before this zero trust initiative? And I think what put everybody's face in it was the changes the pandemic brought. So if you go back far enough, life without zero trust meant that much of the way we approached security was through inheritance. You would build a secure foundation, and then the things that ran on that foundation would inherit a lot of those qualities. And so you build your own private data center, and you would build very important apps that would inherit a lot of that integrity and security. There was a thing called the workplace that you went to, and and there you were guaranteed some privacy, some physical security, all the properties that the architecture delivered. So skip ahead, take all that away, and you still have to run your business. And so you essentially have to get an application and run it in an environment where you can assume you can trust the foundation.
Right.
And that is what leads to this. And the same for the client side. You're having to work out of a cafe or maybe on someone else's network where you can't be assured that you're going to inherit anything good or bad. So building in that trust, building in a way by which you can deliver on the connectivity and the application and everything in an environment where no trust can be assumed, I think is the foundation to the goal of zero trust.
Yeah, and this is, I think, especially as we move to cloud computing, as we start to run workloads, business
Mhm.
outside of a data center. The idea of inheritance that we used to have from I could see an app running in a rack. I knew it was even in this virtual set of machines. That's gone. So the one thing I think we're left with that's really important is identity. What are new models that you're seeing around identity emerge, especially as we think about inheritance? Where do we start?
I think identity fundamentally, when you think about everything you build now, you really need to be, may I say, explicit. You need to be very intentional. You can't go in assuming a common namespace or anything like that. So I think when you also use the term identity, it's to some it just meant my user identity, and
Mm,
I hope that everybody's interpreting that as object identity. A digital object needs an identity to be unique and have integrity within the community that's using that identity. And that goes for applications, that goes for machines, that goes for
mhm.
users. With that identity, then we can operate as an ecosystem where multi-vendor, multi-products come together. They can be talking about my laptop in the same way, which is going to be incredibly important if what you're about to do to my laptop is something like, remediate.
It might seem obvious to some, but maybe not to all, of course. Everything that exists must have an identity. We think about whether it's Kubernetes cluster, whether that's a function. Um, we have to be able to authenticate. We have to be able to authorize. We have to be able to audit, forensics. All of that demands identity. And that's
Yeah,
something that we might forget as security professionals. Why are we doing this?
we definitely shouldn't forget. In fact, if we need a daily reminder, put it in your calendar. But it is that important. Um, it is that important not only from an operational standpoint. So let's make sure that the multiple things that are about to perform a function on this object know the object the same way. Okay. The other side of it, though, is we have to also ensure that this identity can't be inherited by some threat actor, right? Literally the threat against this identity. Because I'll tell you what's going to happen is if that happens, then that threat actor inherits all the entitlement of that identity, right?
Right.
All of the trust relationships and everything else. So yeah, both have to remain true.
What architectural changes? What are you seeing new coming on the horizon that helps with that? And is that zero trust as we call it, all of that, or is it just part of the solution?
Well, again, I think identity sits at a fundamental layer uh, across many architectures, whether your architecture has a zero trust objective, whether it has a extended detection and response objective, whatever the objective of the architecture, you still need identity. And maybe I can point out something that is not that obvious, but folks like to use analogies, particularly physical ones. Things are a little different digitally with identity. The one property that folks struggle with is, if I have a physical object like this coffee mug, if
Yes.
it has an identity and I give it to you, I have less one coffee mug. Um, the problem with digital identity is that when you steal a PDF file from me, or possibly a instance of a machine, I still
Mhm.
have an instance of a machine. It's an information element, right? It's a digital identity,
Right.
and this is also something that is a big consideration, not only in the operation of whether you're cloud native or not, but also when you're doing threat modeling to ensure that digital identity has integrity over time.
Right. And so, I mean, some of the approaches there, I think that have been important, especially in zero trust, is it's unique.
Yeah.
We're probably changing them frequently. We have great observability over the entire life cycle. What else is important along the way? Because and maybe give an example too.
Well, I would say that a lot of what we do, particularly in cloud native, is we've taken things that we used to do maybe 20 years ago, and we're doing it at machine scale,
Mhm.
right? Machines have to understand identities as well as humans.
And
And
machines
there's
are
a
binary. I mean, that's the thing, uh, good or bad, friend or foe. That's the terms that machines think of. Of course, we can give
Yeah,
them greater understanding, but it comes down to granular as that.
yeah, you're right, and not only granular in terms of space, but we when you operate at machine scale, you're operating in time domains that are beyond human capabilities. So you're going to have to be able to transact on these digital identities
Mhm.
much faster than humans can understand. That's also a big consideration.
So we talk about that transition, whether it be like TLS certificates to new type of IDs like SPIFFY identities, or things like going from SSH keys to SSH certificates. It's a whole different scale, time. Yes, it used to be I would take 24 hours to get you back your certificate that you requested. Now you've got about 3 seconds. Um, yeah, we have to be bringing that type of automation, the scale closer to the application. We can't have all of that back at the data center. We have to bring it closer, as we would say, to the edge, which is really, just where the application is running. So both a better developer experience, a better customer experience, and that has to be safe, secure. Anything that you think, if I'm a security professional, identity professional, that I should do tomorrow, Monday, when I get back thinking about work?
I would say just to make sure that you continuously revisit your requirements. I mean, I think it starts there. What are the requirements of the business? What's the, maybe what's the requirements of the cluster? I mean, depending on what scope is, and just make sure they're up to date. Things change over time. And then once you have those requirements, you have the scope to go and look at technology. Without that, I just go chasing shiny objects. I get wrapped up in the technology, and I find it the business requirements give me a lot more scope. So get those down first. Constantly revisit them, update them, and then technology is moving so quickly. Something has a new release that actually might map to a business requirement that you couldn't satisfy prior. So again, a lot of systems thinking and a lot of revisiting, but things you and I know that we're in an industry where you're complete imbecile on Monday, and by Friday you need to be an expert. And if you're not good at that, you're in the wrong industry.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a developer that's going to go and find a way to solve a problem, if you have it, and that is our opportunity as security professionals today. And I think that's really great advice. We've got outcomes that we need to deliver to the business. What are those? And then revisiting constantly those capabilities, those requirements that we need to build in. I think that's awesome advice. And as we get down to zero trust, we can bring the capabilities to meet, the business outcomes. That's great.